it on streaming. Yeah. All right, losers, get in. We're doing this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I will be your host this evening as we review Sick. Did you feel like you didn't get enough of the pandemic in 2020? Well, here's a movie about it. Written by Kevin Williamson. That guy. He did Scream and some other stuff. I don't know. We'll find out. He did that werewolf movie.
I heard this movie was fake.
Cursed. Yeah. And I think he wrote... Did he write all the Scream sequels?
A bunch of them.
1,
Drafts
2,
or
and
something?
4.
I thought he was involved
And then-
with 4. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. All right.
He's credited probably on all of them for like
I'm
characters.
sure because
or
they use
whatever.
the characters. Yeah. Love it. All right.
Wait,
Join-
he wrote The Cursed or a different movie called
He wrote
Cursed?
Cursed.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that.
Joining me tonight has never seen Cursed. He lives in New York City, and his name is John Schnars.
Guess I know what I'm doing this weekend.
That's right. That's one of those movies that has a little bit of like a cult following.
It's like a 90s thing,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't
It
it,
was
like right around Scream?
it was kind of like the from the creators of Scream. Now this thing. I think it was early 2000s. I want to say.
That
Well,
was
'cause he
Christina
al-
Ricci, right?
Yeah, I was trying. I remember the cover of the poster. He also did I Know You Did Last Summer.
Wes Craven returned to form. I'm sure that was said at some point. You know.
I can assure you, Kevin Williamson has no idea what I did last summer.
Doesn't want to know.
Next up
No, he
tonight.
probably doesn't.
Next up tonight from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up, from San Francisco, right? Or the Bay Area?
Sure.
From Oakland?
Yeah, close enough. I mean, if I told you the town, it would make no sense. You'd be like, oh, yeah,
The
San Francisco.
San Francisco's treat. San Francisco's treat, right? It's rice.
Exactly. Delicious, very exciting.
Nutritious rice. Please welcome Rachel
But-
to the show.
But we have to eat it on a cable car. That's like the law here. You can't eat rice outside of a cable car. And at the end of every meal, it's ding ding.
You know, I'm just
Yeah.
noticing, Rachel, that your sweater matches your hair and your hat, which is kind of amazing.
Well, you got to coordinate.
As someone that wears the same 5 t-shirts and the same hoodie every day, that is impressive.
Well, we can do a makeover. You want a stylist advice? You are going to be flashy when I'm done.
No,
America's Next
How
Top
do you
Otter.
feel about LeMay? I feel like you could really pull it off.
I don't know what that means.
I think
Let's find
I
out.
think the Zombie Girls giving makeovers on the BGH cast could probably be a pretty good fundraiser.
I mean, I would put money in. Not that, honestly, to be honest, it you don't need makeovers. You guys look great, but it would be fun to make my Barbie for a day.
Oh man, I smell a Patreon bonus.
There you go.
We're here to talk about Sick, so let's take a quick break and do just that.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the first time. Main feature.
John,
Yeah.
I think of you anytime I see someone. I think Rachel's looking at me. I think of you anytime I see someone talk about how they like the Star Wars prequels on Twitter. Like at least once a day, I see something. I've been on Twitter too much lately, in case you can't tell. At least once a day, I see something that I'm like, I have to see this, and Schnars literally wouldn't believe this is real. Like, I'm going to tell him about this in the show, and he's going to be like, that's not real. No one's seriously doing it. And I'm just going to be like, no. Like, I'm playing the conversation in my head as I'm reading this stupid tweet.
I would say for any of those things, it's like a 50% chance it's a bot at this point.
I have
So-
noticed that since Elon Musk took over, I'm not making this up, all of my only Twitter activity, I get like maybe 1 or 2 likes on something, and then I get once a day I get followed by a porn bot, and it's like clockwork every single
Yes,
day.
they're back.
It's crazy.
Power to the porn.
And it was
bots.
like he took over, and within days, it just completely changed. And I was like, okay, cool, Twitter.
Isn't that well? Whatever. I like because I follow the media news and like there is nothing media people like to talk about more than like what goes on Twitter. It's like it makes me want to use it so much less. Like every time I'm just like, you guys are all mental. Like why? I don't know.
There is a
So-
certain Twitter psychosis that happens when you spend too much time on it, where you just forget what the real world is. Like
Yeah.
you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrible at Twitter, and I have a lot of like I'm able to. Elon Musk has been very freeing for me because I'm able to be like, it's okay that I'm terrible at this. But I used
Well-
to have a lot of anxiety about like a Twitter writer's block. So I
mean,
don't.
I have no shortage of dumb thoughts to share with Twitter, but my thing is more I've realized that it is now like elder millennial safety social media. Like it's the thing that's been around long enough. We sort of get what it is, and so that's why we kind of stick around. But like it doesn't feel like a thing that's very vital anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't hear kids being like, "Hey, did you see this thing on Twitter?" You know what I mean? Like it is now what Facebook was like, started to be like 10 years ago.
Yeah, my moment to shine has arrived. I'm coming back, Twitter.
Like I like Instagram.
Well, what's your porn bot count, Rachel? That's the real question.
I don't know. It might be
Gotta
low.
check.
I mean, we have
don't know.
BGH has what, like 50,000 followers or something, and I'm sure it is a good 75% of our followers.
Yeah. Presumably.
What's a girl got to do to get some bots around here?
Joe was interacting
Beyond-
with them for a while.
Be
so
on
that-
Twitter
that
since
helped.
2007, right, and have somebody just talking to porn bots all day. Or real porn stars even. That happened too.
Thanks for the follow.
I did talk to Stormy Daniels the other day. Does that count?
John,
Yes.
you know what there's a lot of on Twitter?
Words.
Words.
Mm.
Nice. Mind melded with you for a second.
Poorly spelled, I would guess.
Poorly
many
spelled
times.
words. Yep. John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, epizootic.
Sounds hot.
Mm-hmm. That's EPIZOOTIC. Epizootic. Temporarily prevalent and widespread in an animal population. It's an outbreak of an epizootic disease. It's basically an epidemic, but that's happening to animals.
Interesting.
Has
John,
nothing to do with this movie.
John, we're animals.
Absolutely
so
nothing.
we're,
Yeah, it's true.
So
we
wouldn't all
are, but I
epidemics,
think,
I make no distinction. So for the
fair
record.
enough. Man is meat, I guess.
That's right.
So forth.
Hey, you're the Cronenberg fan.
There you go.
Speaking of,
S-
we were sharing that
yeah.
trailer today for that new Brandon Cronenberg, the progeny, right?
yeah.
And I
Infinity
believe it was described as piss-soaked. His new movie.
Can
Yes.
confirm.
I did not watch the trailer. I actually am not going to watch it. I just saw that because you all sent like a screenshot of a
I don't.
tweet
You're
or
right. I
something.
didn't like really look into it. I just love that Mia Goth's in it. Like she is buck wild and just wants to do some crazy shit. And I really like it.
Well, I think
Yeah.
was I telling you all last week? Or no, it must it happened this week because so I must not have talked about it. But I went to see Avatar 2. Took my son. Great time. Lovely. A lot of fun. They had like these like poster. Whatever the posters are that are freestanding. They're not on the wall. They're just like on the ground. They have one of those
The
for Infinity
standees.
Pool. The standees. And I'm like, first of all, I was like, this movie's getting one of those. Great. That's awesome. But it's Mia Goth, and then is it a Skarsgård?
Alexander Skarsgård. Yeah.
And then in the middle, it's like this deformed alien-looking face, and I was like, "What are they doing with it?" I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Have we
So-
ever
You're gonna
done a,
like it.
I'm
I think
so
you're gonna
excited.
like
Have we
it.
ever done a
I
Brandon?
guess I have to do.
is-
That's this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I got out of the Sundance showing, I was like, okay, let's play a game. Name a bodily fluid, and I'll tell you if it's
So
an
I guess
infinity
we're gonna.
pool.
I guess we're
Hey,
gonna.
Spoiler
Spoiler
you
alert,
got-
the answer is yes.
Yeah, I guess we're
Oh
gonna.
my God.
We're gonna have to see if we can get to it this weekend.
Oh,
My
I'm going.
My favorite
I'll
thing
go
about Mia,
anytime.
my favorite thing about Mia Goth being just completely crazy and badass is that her voice is like she's one of the kids being babysat by Mary Poppins. Like that's what her
She
voice
sounds
is
like a haunted Victorian
Yeah,
doll. Like
yes.
that's what she sounds
Yes.
like.
Just this dainty little British, like fancy gal. Just funny.
Yep.
Hey John,
Yeah.
you know what Mia Goth is not in?
The movie Sick.
This movie's sick. Could you
Presumably.
tell me about it? I found out from Rachel's email that I read 5 minutes before the show that Kevin Williamson wrote this movie.
Yeah, he did. It's directed by John Hyams, who I found out while I was researching earlier today is the son of Peter Hyams.
Oh, that guy.
John Hyams, John, this director, is, at least his Wikipedia page says, most well known for the Universal Soldier series.
Ah.
Nice.
For fans of Universal
Who is
Soldier.
Peter Hyam? I don't know who that is.
Peter Hyams was like a kind of genre director in the 60s, 70s, maybe even earlier than that. He directed a lot of stuff. I just sort of know the name, and I saw John Hyams, and I'm like, is that the? But in any event, so Sick also stars Gideon Adlon, who we most recently saw in what's the name of the
Craft.
witch movie? The Craft. I was like, The Curse. It's not The Curse. It's The Craft. What was it? It was like the Craft
Legacy.
Reborn or something.
Yeah,
oh,
that
Legacy.
movie's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks.
She was one of the young ladies in that. And then a woman, Beth Million, plays her friend. There are two young ladies. This takes place at the outbreak of the pandemic, or well, maybe not at the outbreak. They're leaving college. So it's probably I guess they do say it's March, or they say it's April. It's basically
No, I think
and
I think it's they're sending students home because the world was freaking out. I think it was that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're kind of living through that moment, and they decide they're going to go to Gideon Adlon. Her name's Parker in the movie. Parker's family has this it's a real nice lake house, not the kind of mountain house the Schnars family bought. This is several levels above.
Sure.
Very nice. And so it's this huge house. It's very fancy. It's on a lake, and they're just going to sort of ride out. They say they're going to quarantine. I don't know. It's sort of they don't make exactly clear how long they're going to be there. They also didn't bring that much stuff with them, but whatever. And so they're just having a good time. They're then joined by Tyler, I think, is the one that joins them. The sort of on again, off again love interest for Parker from their school. And very quickly thereafter, slasher killers show up and start slashing them and chasing. I should mention there is an opening sequence where we see someone get slasher murdered, very sort of classic slasher-y scene. And so, but with no context. And so that was sort of okay, what's sort of what movie you're in here. But the rest of the movie is that these two young ladies trying to survive / escape. And there are twists and turns.
It's true. There are.
Yeah.
Rachel, what'd you think?
So I feel very conflicted about this movie. On one hand, I think it is a really effective sort of thrill ride slasher. The Kevin Williamson DNA is strong. The seed is strong. I think it has a great opening set piece. It's nice and brutal. It sets these really great stakes for the film. And I think it does a really good job of maximizing the anxiety and paranoia that we all remember very well about the beginning of the pandemic, and setting in the backdrop we have real footage of Anderson Cooper, all of these things, and so all those things are really, really effective and really triggering. If I never see someone wash their groceries again, I will be a happier person, because that is trigger. And I think there's really great, interesting casting choices in this. There's some actors that I really, really like, some really cool sort of character actors. But there's sort of a third act twist that I feel very conflicted about. And I don't want to get into that, obviously, because that's major spoiler territory, that left me kind of feeling sour and complicated about it, because I don't know. It's so muddy, but also like there's also this element of Kevin Williamson and his identity and his background that I think complicates it further. And so I'll talk more about that. But ultimately, my feeling is it's an okay popcorn movie if you can just kind of like set aside your feelings about some of the like morality of it towards the end.
Casey.
Yeah, I think a popcorn movie is the best description for this for me. I enjoyed watching this movie. I was fairly engrossed in it and everything, but it's also didn't do anything too new and exciting as far as a slasher home invasion type movie. We've seen this a lot before, but the actors that they did bring on board, I think they all did fine performances and everything. And like I said, I was kind of, I was paying attention. It drew my attention. So that was pretty good. And I think before it's interesting because this movie's about the pandemic. I think before pandemic, this is the type of movie that would have been perfect for being released on streaming before we started seeing blockbusters getting released and stuff out there. Streaming's a good niche for it is what I'm trying to say. And then also, I really like saying the last name Menchaca.
Jonathan.
Yeah, we should. I mean, this was a straight to Peacock special.
Straight to what?
Yeah, I mean,
Which
look,
platform is that, John?
it's good. It has to be organic, Eric.
Okay.
It doesn't
Gotcha.
it doesn't work if it's not.
Where'd you watch this, John?
But no, I do think it works in that environment, right? It's like 85 minutes long, so not only is it moves, it has a propulsiveness to it. It's also just short, so I like when you realize there's literally only 3 people. Like, this is not the kind of slasher where there's any sort of body count to speak of because it's 3 people. Like, there's just you sort of have to like reconcile, and so
Some
even
people
calling it a
get some
slasher,
people get almost killed multiple times just to give you the satisfaction that you're watching a slasher.
yeah. I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Like, even calling it, I mean, it's a slasher insofar as like it plays with some of those tropes, but it's sort of more maybe thriller is like appropriate. There's, I don't know. Like, I had a good time with it. I am like, I think all of the interesting things to say about it are about the ending and like the way
Yeah,
that it
there's a
wraps up.
lot-
So like,
there's a lot to
we're
dig
definitely
into.
gonna have to get into it. I'm very curious where Rachel's gonna go because there is like a level here of like, and Eric sort of teed this up. This is a movie, at least my experience of this movie is like, it's so inextricably tied to the pandemic and like whether it's triggering or not, like, I don't know, whatever, but it's like, this wasn't like a fun time we all want to like live in again. So it's, there's just like a
Yeah.
level of,
I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know when we're going to be able to like have a movie that's set during this time that isn't triggering. Like,
It's-
maybe never. I
That
don't
was
know. So
yeah. There's a related Instagram question later, but yeah.
it's also like, and again, it does ultimately
Like, I don't
try
want to see a humorous slasher about 9/11 either.
No, but this movie does try to like it I think ultimately at least tries to raise some interesting questions potentially about how people behaved and like choices that were made. I don't know. Again, Rachel is going to tell me why I am.
Well, we can unwind. We can unwind it.
I'm giving you a hard time.
We can definitely
But-
unwind it when we get there. Yeah, because I have some
No,
questions.
well,
also.
I just like that to me is the only interesting part of this because otherwise it's just like it doesn't have anything to say about the pandemic until you get to that, right? Like, otherwise it's just like this could have been set anywhere. It could have just been set at a house that these 2 girls were in for whatever reason. Like, it didn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter until it matters.
I'm pretty on board with everything that's been said so far. I think the one place where it really stuck out to me is, the stalk and chase scenes are very well shot. Like, they're choreographed and shot almost in the way that you would do this in an action movie or something. Like, there's lots of interesting kind of tracking stuff happening as the killer's like kind of bopping around the house. But then once in particular, the first real like attack scene, it is choreographed and shot to the hilt. Like, it's so, there's not a lazy shot in there, and it makes it really, really tense, really energetic and fun in that slashery kind of way. And so that was like the one way that I think it really stood out to me. It is, man. Like as the movie started, and they're really giving you the whole terroir of like of this time period. You know, it's like we're getting Fauci.
We'll check the usage of
I don't ever like
terroir.
in a world where like right-wing politicians are daily now like surfacing conspiracy theories about like I never want to hear Fauci's name again. I want that dude to go retire and go off into the sun, and I never want to hear his name. Like not because there's anything wrong with him. I just can't. Again, you talk about being triggering, John. Like I don't want to relive 2020. It's interesting. I don't remember people wearing masks in April. I don't remember masking being a thing until like summer, like May or June. I feel like because it didn't happen right away. Because in the beginning they're like, yeah, masks
they were wearing were inappropriate because people were wearing like shitty cloth masks. Like to the extent I was wearing a mask, it was like nonsense.
But I remember, and I don't know, Rachel lives in a much different land than we do. But I remember in the beginning, even on the news, them being like, they don't think masks will do anything. And then suddenly, like 2 months later, somebody was like, hey, masks would really help us here. Like, but whatever. My memory, to be fair, could be very fuzzy. But I was uncomfortable in this beginning part because I'm just like, ugh, like I don't. There is some like, it is a pretty funny movie, but it sort of picks its spots where it's funny. Like once the reveal happens or whatever, there's this video of her making out with a dude at this party. And there's this hilarious line where the person confronting her with this video is like, and you said hashtag 2020 sucks donkey dick, hashtag COVID up in my face bitch, or something like that. Like, the hashtags were so good. There was something really funny she said in the very beginning too to her friend who wants her to put the mask on. I can't remember what it is but there's like a really funny exchange. But the other really super funny moment was when she stops to get rescued by a woman on the road, and the woman won't let her in the car until she puts her mask on. Like that's part of what happens. But I was initially rolling my eyes at that scene, and then I was laughing by the end of it because like it was just funny. It was just really well done, and I didn't know it was written by Kevin Williamson. But now in hindsight, I'm like, okay, some of those jokes are of a caliber, and they're few and far between. It's not like a just full jokey thing. But some of them are just of a caliber. They're like, all right, that makes sense. Like you got a pretty clever person like writing it. But yeah, I would say it's a man, sub 90-minute runtime. Some nice, really tense stalker slashery scenes. Really well shot. You know, I was bumming out in the beginning. Like, call me old school, John. I like my slasher to be wearing a stupid mask. Now, in the fullness of the movie, I understand, like, he's basically just got, like, a mask on, right? Which totally makes sense. But in the beginning, I'm just like, man, you just go to the store and get yourself a stupid goat mask or something. Come on, dude. Like, let's make this happen. Clown, goat. It can be literally anything. Like, just pick a mask. You're good.
I was fine with it. I sort of, like...
I'm not a big fan because this is a modern... Again, it does tie into the movie, which to me makes it relevant. But I feel like there's, like, a modern stripped-down slasher that wears, like... skinny jeans and a black sweater and like maybe like a beanie, and it's just like, all right, fine. Like,
wait, what are you talking about?
This is a thing. It's a thing.
There's not like are you referencing a specific film?
No, yeah. I feel like confused. I have seen
this happened on Twitter.
I have seen several movies where I feel it's like I think they want to go like a little more stripped down in a meta kind of way. And like faceless more, where I'm just like, I don't know, just what if you were wearing like an elephant mask or something like that? Would be cool.
There's like a realism that is at play here.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's fine.
Dovetails with
and again,
the way they handle
there's a thematic thing
right,
once you get with the mask.
That's why it's fine. Sure. Because once you get the reveal, it makes complete sense why he is the way he is. And there's that really great reveal too. The one killer dies, and then another. At that moment in the movie, you don't know what's happening. The person who walks in literally looks identical to him, so you think like. I was thinking maybe there's some kind of like supernatural-y thing happening here. That's not where it goes, but you don't know at the moment, so it's an effective moment. But yeah, it's pretty decent. I do have a lot of questions / ponderings about the twist.
Yes.
So why don't we just get into
Agree.
it? Does somebody want to describe what happens?
Rachel
Sure.
all right,
Okay.
I will.
So
or Eric, you watched
Eventually-
it most recently, but
It just
eventually
ended.
they do catch up with Parker, and they bring her back to. They drug her and bring her back to her house, where they reveal the motive, because a slasher killer must always have a motive, for the stalking of her. It turns out that the party, there's this whole B plot about her making out with somebody else and her boyfriend being upset about it. That at this party, COVID on my face, donkey dick party, she was asymptomatic and passed on COVID to multiple people at the party, including one of their sons, the youngest son, who subsequently, very rapidly, I don't know about, I'm calling shenanigans on the timeline, but whatever. He subsequently died from COVID. And so they are getting revenge against her, and the guy in the first scene was the person that actually gave it to her. So they've been like contact tracing and killing the people responsible for the death of their child.
they also
There you
give her a
go.
COVID test, which she is still positive.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna call
it's-
I don't remember there being tests that early
There
either.
weren't. Those tests
yeah.
did not definitely not exist
Like,
for
Yeah.
sure.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna make
But
your
those
movie
were the
like,
early ones, though. I was like, ooh.
but if you're gonna make your
ooh,
movie
triggered.
like, if you're gonna make your movie like so about COVID, like let's get the fucking details right, people. All right, like because you could have said it. Quarantine lasted a while. Like people were quarantined like most of the whole summer and shit. Like so.
But I do feel like, I mean, again, there's a window where this all like hangs together, because
Yeah.
you do get to a point in the pandemic where people like kind of stop giving a shit, and like, you know,
No,
I
totally,
mean,
but this
would they
is-
still have like
but-
murdered
but
people
this
for
is,
getting
like-
their son sick? Like,
well, I
don't know,
understand,
maybe,
right.
but
I understand what you're saying. It's like in the initial like hysteria.
yeah.
Here's my
It-
thing. Here's my thing. All right, let's just get into it. Okay. I want to be careful because like just because somebody writes a killer's motive in a movie, it doesn't always have to be what the movie's trying to say, right? The movie doesn't always have to be trying to say something.
Right.
However,
Not every movie is prescriptive. Yeah.
right. However, it all
It's often the opposite.
however, the
right?
movie
Like,
is
we're not
also
supposed to identify with
you know, it
killer
also
all the
is
time.
surfacing these ideas into my gray matter here that I'm working with, which is like there's a correlation being drawn, I think, between like carelessly giving 8 people COVID and having somebody die and being a slasher murderer, basically. Like there's a pretty, to me, clear 1-to-1 that the killers are making anyway, and that the movie's asking you to ponder, like that I think makes me uncomfortable because I don't know how to reconcile
Well,
that in my head.
Some of that's the black humor behind it, though, too, though, where these parents are going so far as to contact trace and murder everything person that had come in contact to lead to their son dying. And they made a point that they're always like, oh, make sure your mask is on. I'll put your mask on. Because there was like one time the dad didn't have his mask on. Mom snapped at him, put your mask on and stuff like that. There's
You
some
know
dark
what-
humor there that
you
they're
know-
willing to do that, but still sticking to the rules.
What it also really made me think about, this is so interesting actually, like I vividly remember at the time the like Florida spring break stuff happening and people just obliterating these kids on Twitter, because to be fair, they would interview a lot of them and they sounded just dumb as shit. But weirdly, this movie, I had this moment of empathy while in this movie where I thought like it sort of sunk into me like what it must have been like for people to have lived through that without fully functioning frontal cortexes. like we are sort of at the age of reason as like middle-aged adults, right? Where like it was disturbing and awful, but like maybe we're in some ways, at least some of us, more capable of thinking outside of ourselves, but like you're not really capable of doing that as a kid. And like, yeah, I don't know, it was weird. Not like and the movie specifically kind of paints her as being like hilariously reckless, right? Like it's not like, even compared to her friend who's also young, and her friend is very like masked up, like even within the younger aged people, like there's tension there, right? But I don't know, it was interesting. It gave me this like empathy that I don't remember feeling. I just remember feeling like rage at the time, and then I was like, nah, like I don't know, I kind of
No.
get it watching this.
I actually think you're like getting exactly what the filmmakers want. Like, I would say it's like pretty unambiguous.
Did they want me to
that-
feel feelings, John? I think it worked.
that part? Like Parker is right. Like and some of this is like maybe I'm just
Who's Parker?
like
I need like a
the
description.
girl.
Okay.
There's only
The
like
main
2
girl.
people with names in this movie. One
Main
of them
girl.
is Parker.
Got it.
Yes. Like typically, the way like most monster or genre things like this work is like the monster is destabilizing, and then it like the characters have to like correct for that and
Well,
like
and also like
establish
the monster
normality.
and the monster has a understandable grievance, right? So then but you're left away like their grievance versus what they're doing. Like
But
I'm not
like,
saying it's
so they're so over the top. Like it's
course,
I don't
of
know.
course.
My reading is like it's very clear that what their behavior is
No,
like
of
more reprehensible than hers,
of course it is.
and that like her killing them with like that's cathartic. Like we are meant to be like she took care of those like people that were just acting.
John,
I
I would put out there that there might be people out there who would watch this movie and find more equivalence than you are. And I'm not with those people, but I'm just saying those people exist.
Well, I'm not sorry. I'm not saying that the movie isn't asking us to like compare them. There is a comparison, but clearly what they are doing in murdering people is worse than people who exposed people to COVID unknowingly. Like it's not we are being asked to like compare and then realize that like, oh, if you expose someone to COVID in a situation where you were like having fun at a party, where like the point that Parker makes at one point, because she asked them directly, like, are you not upset that your son was at this party? Like did he not have any part in like his own choices, you know? And they don't respond to that. I think they just ignore it altogether, but I don't know.
All right, Rachel, you look pensive over there. Why don't you
I mean,
jump in?
I don't love that we're treating people who take masking seriously as the villains. Like that definitely soured it for me. Like, look at these hysterical people that like are taking COVID seriously and expect people to mask and like be responsible. But I think one of the things about Kevin Williamson in his writing, this is something he's talked a lot about, like that so much of his becoming a fan of horror when he was young and becoming someone who wrote horror is very much wrapped up in his identity as a gay man. Like he loved Halloween and identified with Laurie Strode because he saw that like her survival against these, like everything being thrown against him or her as something he could relate to as like a gay man growing up in a small town and being like, you know, bullied and harassed horrifically. And then, you know, he went on and wrote Scream, which is explicitly a gay survival story. That is what he was doing. And so he does a lot of working things out. And I found myself, again, because apparently I can't come on the show anymore without talking about like the AIDS crisis, but he's 57. He came of age in the 80s when being gay, especially a gay man, was like essentially people wrote you off and stigmatized you as like, you know, it's a death sentence essentially just to be a queer man. And I think that there's why this is so muddy is there is this mixture of mixing the stigmatization and criminalization of HIV with this modern plague. It's essentially treated like a sexually transmitted disease in this movie. Like it's described as a respiratory illness, but it's passed on with sexual contact from her multiple partners and engaging in risky behavior with multiple partners. And so I think there is some degree of that happening in this where his over-identification with final girls, as well as like the backstory of like the way that plagues have been treated, that it makes the ultimate sort of answer very, very muddy in a way that felt super uncomfortable for me, but also kind of understandable. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think my gut reaction, I'm just going to react in the moment, as is what we're here to do. It's a lot to bring the like Kevin Williamson AIDS experience in. Like I mean,
it's a deeply traumatic experience for like a generation of gay men, you know, to have
but I'm saying
that coming of age be.
No, I think the question is more how much of that is surfaces in the movie.
Yeah, I know who Kevin Williamson is. I knew he was gay, but like it never once entered my mind that this had anything to do with his experience as a gay man. Like
really?
I don't know. No, it just does. And people who are younger than me or less connected to horror than I am, which is like most people watching this movie, there's just no way they're going to get that from this. Like
I mean, I don't think he's trying to say it like overtly. I'm saying I feel like it's impacted the way that he viewed and wrote this story, like where he ended up with it, as opposed to like he wanted to say something about state like criminalization of like past, like there are some states where if you knowingly have HIV and have unprotected sex, you are like can be criminally charged for it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some of that sort of boiling below the surface, and that's why I'm saying I think it's interesting, because I'm like, how does his life experience play into this and complicate the politics of the end of this movie?
Well, because ultimately, where you started, and just I want to make sure I'm understanding it. Like the fact that it makes the mask wearing parents the bad guys is the problem. The other thing I was gonna say, and someone else brought this up, but like the friend is also sort of like coded as like the goody two shoes mask wearer, but not in a bad way. Like she's if anything, Parker is like responsive to the friend who admonishes her. You know, like she does put her mask on when the friend asks her. So like I don't know. I feel like
no, I think
also,
that's.
like, the
I think
friend
it's
is
an
not
important.
coded as like a monster.
I think it's an
for
important
asking
point.
for it, you know,
I
so.
think it's an important point that the friend is there, also being that way and not being coded. I mean, she's coded as being much more logical than our main character. Like our main character is sort of presented flaws and all. I think as this person who just like is not thinking outside of herself.
It's also interesting, and like I haven't thought about. I'm like thinking about this out loud. But the first guy who's killed, like DJ or whatever his name, or PJ or something, he is presented as like mostly following the rules. Like he does wear his mask. Like he's reluctant. Like clearly, there's like a moment where he's like pulling his mask down to like I don't know, wipe his nose. I can't remember exactly what he's doing. There's a lot of attention being paid to how he's like performatively doing the things he's supposed to be doing while he's in this, because we follow him around the supermarket, and then he does do all the like wiping down.
Oh my god, the wiping down.
I mean,
that always makes me
the first
laugh.
text they send him is also like, do you want to play? Have you tested? Because we only play with COVID safe. Like there's some language in there that feels pretty coded and loaded to me.
Yeah. No, sure. And the pickup element, I guess.
The wiping down of groceries was like, that always makes me laugh, because like that is a thing that pegs it as at such a specific moment in time.
We did
definitely.
that. I feel like that happened for like 2 weeks.
It wasn't
at
that
least in
long,
our
but I
house. Like,
remember
it was
my
like,
mom. I remember my mom turning the garage into like a decon chamber at her house, where like everything got fucking away. I think at my house that happened for like maybe 2 weeks, and then it was like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, there's just no way.
Yeah.
But
I'm kind of with John. I don't know that I picked up on those angles of that story, because to me, a lot of it just reflected on. It came across as reflecting of the craziness that you saw on social media at that time during that period, during quarantine. And there's a lot of people coming from both sides. And you could even say some of them, I mean, obviously the crazies, we all know the crazy arguments. There's some people that had reservations on both sides that was realistic. I saw a lot of that reflected here with a little bit of over the top is how it came across to me. Which is to say, I thought it felt fairly realistic for the time period they're trying to set it up. If you don't get into the nitty gritty, like with the style of masks and stuff like that, I think they did a really good job of representing.
No, well, if anything, like I feel like the real crazy behavior policing didn't start until later, right? Because again, to Eric's point, like people didn't know how important the masks were because there were.
I mean, that's an interesting point.
I mean,
an interesting point in history in general, that like. The beginning of quarantine was pretty cooperative by most people. Like, it was more just the longer people had to stay inside, the more people just started losing their goddamn minds and like never.
There was like that 1 month
them.
period where everybody was just scared and didn't know what the hell was going on.
And then then these idiots were inside too much and started Googling, and then we're here.
What was that? When did that spring break happen? Because that was kind of like
I thought it was that year, right? Like,
but
I think
it was early when they were like, it's not really affecting young people. Young people aren't catching it. It's fine. It's fine. It was that era.
See,
because
I thought it was in
March,
the fall. Right? I thought it was like not till the next college fall, because there was a whole bit about like kids are going to go home to their like parents now.
I feel like I remember because it was like that April.
End of semester or something.
I feel like I remember it being that.
It wasn't spring break.
Because I work in news, and I remember like covering it
We all look. I lost track of time. Like the whole fucking thing is like a
Oh yeah.
disaster. I just
thing that
worry
really
our
fucks-
grandkids are gonna watch this and not understand what the pandemic
The
was
thing
like
that really
anymore. I'm
fucks with
kidding.
me, the thing that really fucks with me is when I think of like, we go, 2020, but it was like almost 3/4 of 2021 before anybody was vaccinated and out doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
2021, man, is this real vortex time suck for me of just like, that wasn't really real life either. You know what I mean? That was still, it was just the same thing going on forever.
I mean, I still have hard time sometimes coming to terms with it that it was like 3 years ago.
It was like 2 winters and 2 summer, you know, like.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago sometimes.
See, this is my problem with movies like this, honestly. Like, I think that for me, like, I don't want to live in this, like, to your point, John, like, for not even sub 90 minutes. I would be cool if movies and TV just forever pretended this didn't happen.
Well, it definitely, and I don't know, maybe I haven't seen, other than the Scream movies, I haven't seen that many Kevin Williamson movies, I don't think. There's definitely like the same thing that happens in Scream where there's like the moment of like basically explaining the movie to the audience. Like
Yeah.
the whole thing with there's this,
Yeah.
if they really wanted to kill her, like they could have killed her like many
That
times
felt,
over.
that felt super, well, Kevin Williamson, what it felt like was early 2000s post-Scream slasher, where that was
Yeah.
like post-Scream, Kevin Williamson, not that there were never slasher reveals before that, but it became, you had to have one. Like,
Yeah.
that was the whole sort of pinpoint of the genre. If you look at all the stuff that came after, like,
Well, really, as far as Kevin Williamson scripts go, I think this one is pretty formulaic for his stuff, right? It's really nothing new.
and I think there's a certain comfort to that too. If you've loved a lot,
Yeah,
if you've loved
that's not
movies
part of
like,
my book, but
if you've loved movies like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer or Urban Legend or something, there's a little bit of that, in particular in the reveal stuff.
Yeah.
well, but they get rid of all the like nonsense. The nice thing here is there's not a lot of like, other than, as Rachel, you mentioned, there's this like B plot about the like, to me, it felt like it wasn't even a B, it was like a D plot. And
What
then they tried
plot?
they tried to like elevate it at the very end. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is this?
Which
But
plot was this?
the like her being at this party, which
Yeah.
it becomes this moment for like a hot second.
Yeah.
I
I'm
they
sorry.
seed it
Yeah.
throughout. I watched it again today, and they do seed some of the stuff
Yeah.
throughout.
They do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is kind of like a
Because-
hey, Chekhov's make out.
There's the video. There's the video, and then like it's the whole thing of the argument between her and the guy, and then really the rest of the movie's like chasing and murdering, and then it comes back. I don't know. I think that thread is like woven pretty well, and it really like it just because it gives us this moment of them reading the hashtags. Like I'm pretty there for it. It's so good.
Yeah, but no. I guess the point I was making is like they do cut out like there's not lots of like characterization and development here. Like it's sort
Yeah.
of other than some of these.
Which is okay.
Interactions.
It's a slasher. You know.
No,
like,
I'm saying it as a good thing. Like that is.
it
that
feels
is
like a slasher ass slasher,
bonus,
which is a
yeah.
thing that he's pretty good at, and I do enjoy.
Yeah, that's the point I was making though at the top of the show. That this is a movie that feels like it's streaming is the perfect place for it to be, and it's the perfect kind of movie where you're kind of flipping around bored and you want to watch something new. You throw this on, you'll be entertained. It's not
I
gonna
don't know,
blow you
Casey.
away, but
They put Skinamarink in a fucking movie theater, and so the baseline now is just so fucked. Like
That's
I can't
fair.
decide what should be in a theater anymore.
well, as a matter of fact, I did send you guys a text when I started watching this on Sunday nights. Like, wow, this movie's amazing. It has a plot.
Did we get Rachel's Skinamarink review?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh
haven't
wow!
yet.
All right.
Wow.
No.
Good for
And
you.
it's so
I'm so
funny
happy
because
for you.
I'm watching like half my like social media is like this is a masterpiece, and the other half is like what is this piece of shit?
Those are the porn bots.
not
sending
mine.
Those masterpiece tweets.
Not you're right, but not mine anymore because I straight up started muting people that liked it.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Just so you know, out there in Twitter land, you've been muted.
Rachel, I'm so happy for you never having watched this
I don't
movie.
need. Listen,
Really?
I don't need that.
It's-
I don't need that kind of energy in my life, John. People liking Skinamarink.
That is really.
You can go in the pile with the people that liked Halloween Ends that I don't see tweets from anymore.
I'm sad that you're not here with a hot take, like in either direction, honestly, because I was really excited
In
about
fact,
it. But I'm
you know
also
what
happy
I'll
for
do?
you
Because
to have
Twitter
not
does
seen it.
Twitter does
It
this.
feels like a situation where I let Ariel watch it and tell me if I need to.
I don't like maybe I
We'll
can.
grill her.
I don't know if I can turn this off on my end, but Twitter does this really obnoxious thing where it'll surface tweets that other people liked. So like, if I notice all of a sudden, like, why am I seeing so many tweets about this subject, like Skinamarink or Halloween or whatever, and I'll look and it'll be like liked by blah blah blah. I will straight click on that and mute every motherfucker on it or unfollow them that was like that I was following that put this on curse on my timeline. I will end that shit.
Shit.
I don't fuck around.
Harsh.
Now I feel like I have to watch it. Like the more you hate it, the more I'm like, I need to know what is the worst movie you've
Well,
ever
I'm
seen.
trying to I'm trying to prevent that from happening. So I don't want to make it seem like we hate it too much. It's because it's not that kind of hate.
I do.
It's like
Right.
Now the
It'd be
internet
like a
has
Serbian film situation where everybody sees it because everybody
No.
hypes it as being
the
so
people
bad.
the people who like Skinamarink have made me hate it more than when we reviewed it last week. Now that I've
Oh.
had to listen to it on Twitter for a week.
I see. In that case, I am con. I do not
They-
like that movie.
they insist upon themselves, John.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
He's not wrong.
It definitely it
You know it's-
raised
listen, you know-
more emotions
No,
than
wait.
Sick did. Let's
You
just
know-
put it that way.
you know
Like,
it's bad.
Liking Skinamarink is not a personality, people.
You know it's it's bad when Casey agrees with me because he's so nice.
Mm.
When Casey will be like, it's bad, then you know it's not great. All right.
See, my Twitter interaction this week was me like looking at your tweet, thinking I knew what creepy '90s comedian was being creepy, being like,
Oh
oh,
my
wrong one,
God.
oh, wrong one again.
That
They're
fucking
keeping us busy
video.
this week.
I don't even want to get into that. It made me so mad. It was so stupid.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. All right. Would you recommend Sick, Rachel?
I mean, it's not aggressively bad. I think if you want to have just sort of like a goofy slasher, it's like you said, it's quick, it's easy. There's some fun kills. Mark Menchaca, who we didn't even talk about, is wonderfully quietly menacing, like he always is. Jane Addams is
Chaka.
excellent in this.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, give it a watch, and then go out and watch John Himes' other movie with Mark Menchaca, which is the superior one called Alone, that nobody saw except for me, apparently.
Alone
No,
is really
we
good. We
reviewed
did it on the
Alone.
show.
You did a review Alone. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
It's real.
We liked
Now,
it.
is he also
Really
on,
good.
is he also on Ozark? That dude, he was on the first season of
Yeah.
Ozark. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I
He was
thought. He
in-
has a very
yeah,
like
he is.
distinct face beard situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Alone
do
is
d-
great. I think it was on
You
like
Never
mentioned,
go with
uh,
Mark Menchaca to the second. It's the Andowed rule. You never go to the second
Second
location. with Mark
location.
Menchaca.
You mentioned Jane Addams. I did like seeing her in a different role because she's typically kind of sweet and innocent and a little flighty sometimes. You see her a lot in comedies, so it was cool
Yeah.
seeing her show up in a new role here.
She's funny.
Yeah.
She's pretty
Yeah.
good. Like that whole, she does her comedy stuff well. All right. Did I ask everybody?
Did you want any of
Casey?
our other?
Casey?
No, I'm the arbiter. I am the grand arbiter.
Yes.
We're done.
Casey,
Rachel has spoken.
Would you recommend this, Casey? Casey, would you
Would-
recommend this?
Yes, I would.
John?
I'm gonna go yeah too. I think.
Yeah, I'm also yes. It's a pretty fun little slasher romp, and it's well done.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this about me, John. I like a good slasher movie. It's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did know that actually.
Yeah. I like watching a series of people get stalked and murdered, and then having a reveal monologue at the end. Could have had more.
Preferably with hashtags.
Could have had more people killed, but
You know, Mark Menchaca had that pretty sweet giant Rambo survival looking knife. I thought that was pretty cool too, as far as a survivalist or a slasher weapon.
it's true.
Agree.
All right, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
I was trying not to cough, and I did it.
You waited right till you were like, we're out of the break here.
Ugh. This is the most not sick I've been since Thanksgiving, but I'm not a 100%
You're so
not.
fucked. You just said that out loud.
I'm not
Yeah.
sick. I'm not sick though. I will say that.
Yeah.
You're gonna catch COVID again just because we talked about it.
Basically, where I'm at is like, I guess I'm not sick, but I still just have a cough now.
You're like, this is just how I feel now
Yeah.
all the time.
And if I have a day where I'm like go through a lot physically, the next day my throat just hurts, and then it goes away after like a day. That sounds bad. Like that sounds like a thing that's not going away. When I say it out
That's why
loud,
we're sending you electric throws, my friend. We're gonna send you a muff.
man, like
Max.
we had a snow day here on Monday, and like I was outside. We made a snowman, and I built like a hill for the kids to sled on, and like man, I could not move yesterday.
How big was this hill you built?
Maybe 4 feet high, but then the yard is also on a slant, so the hill just kind of gets you
okay.
going. And also,
Gotcha.
I have tiny kids, so it was like a giant thing to them.
Cute.
It was fun.
That is fun.
I had a proud.
We've had no snow. The like low has been like 40
we got-
for 2 months.
Yeah,
It's
we got kind
ridiculous.
of dumped on, and it was perfect snowman snow, like where you make a ball and you start
Slightly
rolling
wet.
it, and like 10 seconds later, it was like ginormous. It was awesome. I had a proud parenting moment where, in the middle of all this, I could tell some other kids across the street had come out and saw what we were doing, and clearly went in and got their mom and were like, "Do this for us." And I saw them out there trying to do it. They couldn't do it. They're not as cool as me.
I like that you're proud parenting moment. Someone else couldn't do the thing you were
Yeah.
doing.
That's how that works, John. Keeping up with the Joneses, and the Joneses
You
are
weren't,
me.
you weren't like, hey, do you want to come use our sled hill? No.
Hell no.
You
I
build your own sled hill over
I
there.
don't know these kids, John. I'm not inviting strange children over to my yard.
God.
Kidding
Okay.
me?
We have a big music center, like at the outdoor amphitheater, like for all of central Indiana, is just down the road from me. And in the winters, they leave the back gate open, and there's, it's a huge like pavilion seating, and then a huge lawn section that, it's all raised up seating. They let us go back there and sled down the back of the lawn section on the outside of the fence. It's good times. That's a huge hill.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had one of those growing up, and that was similar, like a bowl. in,
Yeah.
like, a
We would
theater setting,
go.
yeah.
There was a like, it was a nursing home in my hometown that had like an insane hill in the back of it that they would let kids go sledding on. One year they had been doing some kind of construction, and there were huge dirt piles at the bottom of it that then
Oh,
got
yeah.
snowed on. So it was like a 10-foot
a
ramp
ramp.
basically. And I was in I feel like I was in my early 20s or something and went, or like my teens or something. Like we just thought it'd be fun. And I
You're
remember
gonna get injured, dude.
yeah, I remember going off this ramp. So I'm sitting on my butt on, I don't know what kind of sled it was, but like going off this ramp, and immediately, you ever do that? Like you hit the air and go, this was a mistake. I don't know what I'm going to do.
So dead. Yeah.
And like,
Your body weighs so much more than it
Yes.
did when you were little. That's
Yes.
what you
Yeah.
forget.
I
Like, when you're little,
remember-
you hit the ground. It's like
I
"Alright,
hit the
that sucks."
ground and felt every bone in my body compress. Like it hurt
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where it feels like your entire skeleton shakes.
Yes, it was awful. Yeah, it was so bad. Rachel, have you ever been sledding?
I mean, I have traveled to places where snow are and have gone down. the hill. I mean, my version of this is like, sometimes it rains here. Hey, I did this weekend though. I went hiking and I like kind of hydroplaned, and I felt not my bones compressed, but I felt like my thigh muscle like boing
Oh,
to
I
the
hate
point of
that.
ripping and then bounced back. But it was, and I was like, I don't know, 5 miles away from the car, so it was scary. But no.
I slid on ice today, and I think I was this close to tearing a groin muscle. Like that's when you know you're like hit that certain age when you go to catch yourself and you go,
Yes.
"Ooh, I almost popped a gasket there." Like that's
Yeah. Yeah, gotta take care of that undercarriage.
we, dude. You telling me? We old. So
Yeah, I was out there feeling young and youthful, and then my leg went. "Rrr." I was like, oh no, you're an elder.
oh
Move
man.
on.
John, have you
Yes.
seen Mithrigan yet, John?
I haven't,
No.
but I was very excited to learn that it is already streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rent.
unbelievable.
Do we think?
I cannot wait to
What
watch
do you think
this
of that
movie.
as a strategy, John?
I mean, look,
It seems a little
I
wild.
don't
It's
second
like
guess
2
the
weeks.
Blum.
2 weeks in.
The Blum can do no wrong, in my opinion. So we're, I don't second guess the business strategy. Let me just say that. Like,
Yeah.
somebody paid him some money to put that movie on streaming. So,
Are you gonna see
they know
it?
what they're doing.
I need the Schnars
I can't wait
review.
to watch it. I'm very excited. I still haven't seen it, so
You know what I didn't do, John, which I should probably do. I guess we'll do right now.
start your list.
I know I didn't think to do
Sick
it.
number
Ooh.
1,
Yes.
Regan number 2.
Skinamarink number a million.
Oh my god.
No, I'm slotting that in right now. For
We
worst
might
of
bring the
year.
worst back, the worst list back.
Oh well,
just
we
to
did it. I
talk
mean, we
about
did
Skinamarink.
some worse this year. Let's see. Eric BGH end of year list.
But wait,
exciting.
are we making the decision right now that we're going to Infinity Pool, or do we need to wait to see if you guys can see it?
I would
feel like
do,
there's
well. I
theaters.
just need to check that it's in my theater, or that we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yes, if I can see it, yes, we can do it. I was
Okay.
in. They had me
Hear
at.
that episode.
They had me at piss soaked. I'm in. All right, I'm gonna say
I
number
mean,
one.
Rachel's got me more excited than I've been for a movie in a long
I mean,
time.
Are you a Brandon Cronenberg fan? Do you like Antiviral and Possessor? You're gonna
Yeah.
have a great time.
I
Yeah,
loved.
awesome.
I
wait.
loved. I loved Possessor. Antiviral, like.
I'm
maybe less so,
curious
but-
though. I guess the question is, are your theaters going to be able to show it because it has like unsimulated sex and stuff in it. So I don't know what
Is
the.
that
Don't-
a problem in New York City?
Don't
you think?
threaten me with a good time.
No, I just didn't know. Like, I don't know what your theater situation.
But what does that
is. Like,
mean?
it's not gonna play in like.
you mean
my
it has
AMC 'cause
actual?
it's
You mean it?
NC-17.
It has actual boning in it, is what you're saying?
Ooh.
You're not sure? Was it movie magic?
Well, she said unsimulated sex. Like,
I know.
I mean,
That's
there's
just
only one way
sex,
that
right? I'm confused
works,
about the
right?
the vernacular. All right, this is very important, John.
Rachel, the like standee that I was describing earlier was in an AMC theater. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm
Unless they're
just
just
imagining what the
teasing me.
standee would be. Because sorry.
I mean, it's kind
They're
I saw.
teasing me. They're like, you might want
Well,
to
I'm
see the
wondering if
movie,
they're
but
going to
not
show like
here.
a different cut of it because I know like Possessor did like they released the unrated separately from the theatrical. I was just
But wasn't the unrated like nonsense? Like there was like nothing. I think we ended up watching the unrated, and like I don't remember there
Yeah.
being anything super.
there's a
graphic in
little
there.
bit more violence and there's some unsimulated sex in it.
Brandon Cronenberg,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
we
I don't know what's going on with
have
this
to have a conversation.
Yeah,
The,
Brandon
the daughter
Cronenberg.
has a movie coming out next. And
I
so I'm just
saw
like, I
that.
want to
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see what's going on with this
Totally.
family.
More like Cronin Boner, am I right?
Yeah, Brandon's like, you know what this movie needs? Unsimulated sex.
So John, we're gonna start my 2023 list with a little bit of a what do they call it in bowling? An 8-10 split.
A turkey.
I'm gonna go
Oh, okay.
Megan at number 1 and Sick at number 10. The two movies we've reviewed this year.
Okay.
There's no way Sick ends up on this list, but I'd like to fill things in. So
God, what if it does though?
it'd be sad.
What if it does?
That'd be a sad year.
Yeah, it is early.
And I don't think Megan will end up at number 1. I can only hope. I did like it a lot, but there's got to be better stuff this year. There usually is. So we'll see. For now,
Rachel, what's your
She needs to
is
be
your
confirmed.
understanding that the new Ari Aster movie is horror or not horror?
I thought it was
I
a
think
comedy.
it's going to be sort of like surrealist drama with like some horror elements.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still 100% going to cover
I like
it.
the idea of
I
just
mean, I'm
reviewing
gonna
all
see
his.
it for sure.
I like the idea of reviewing all his movies out of spite because he's always said he doesn't like to be known as a horror director. So I like the idea of
Oh, I
just
didn't know that.
insisting on reviewing all of his movies and calling them horror movies.
It's like Roundtable being like, we don't want to be called a pizza place.
Chuck E. Cheese
That's
being like,
what you do, though.
Chuck E. Cheese being like, we're more of an Italian experience than anything. Chuck E. Cheese's. Casey, what do we got? Sorry, we do have emails. Rachel, I wanted to check in with you real quick and see how your sleep mask situation is doing.
It's going good. Yeah, I mean, I still wear it, and I've not had any spiders in my ears, so I feel like it is effective. Yeah,
That's
I feel good about it.
That's good. And are we doing the eye cover
working.
too? Are we doing the prototype that had the eyes too?
I have not been doing the prototype with the
Mm.
eyes, but you know what? I need to bring it in so that you can see it in its fullness.
I love it.
Although I do feel like I want to change some elements. I think right now I have a thing that's just sort of like a flop down, and I feel like there's still a lot of like light seepage. So I may create like a Velcro attachment that goes across.
So I have
So
an eye.
We'll see. We're innovating.
I have an eye like
Science.
it doesn't strap. It's just a weighted. It has like it's basically like segments that are almost like bean bags that are stitched together, and so they're like this is the listeners can't see this sort of curved. So like because it's beans, when you put it in your eye, it fills in. So there's no light.
Okay.
You know what I
That's
mean? It's like that
interesting.
kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But when you roll over, it falls off.
Anytime I roll over, I wake up anyway. So I just roll on my side and I reposition it. I wake up like 10 times a night.
Oh my God.
Amateurs.
You haven't committed suicide?
I'm a very light. I largely go right back to bed, but I'm a pretty light sleeper.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, the best way is CPAP mask. Put CPAP mask on. I could wrap the pellet blanket over my head, and I'm good to go.
Hey, there you go. I have a
There you
new
go.
mask. I got sent one of those red light therapy masks that whenever I put it on, I look like if Tron had a BDSM scene. That's kind of
Now, what is that? What is that?
That's Tron
What is
3,
what is that
actually.
for?
They are making that new one.
I know.
Yeah.
And weirdly, it's Brandon Cronenberg doing it. I don't know.
Now, what is the
Tease me.
what does the red light do?
Do you really want?
Yes.
So basically, it is okay. So waves are different lengths of width, right? And red light is the longest wave, so it pierces deeper into your epidermis,
So this is
and
a
it's able to like
skin thing.
what's that?
It's a skin
that?
thing.
It's a skin thing.
Got
There
it,
you go.
Got it.
That TDLR
TLDR.
skin thing. Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
And it is horrifying on, but
Hmm.
we'll see what it does.
Cool. All right. Thanks for the update on your sleeping situation. This was on Slack.
Anything else?
In Sick, the killers are murdering people because of the poor etiquette of not wearing a mask during a pandemic. What other social faux pas do you think are deserving of murder? I would say getting your nasty feet out on a plane. You should
Yes.
be murdered.
Get in behind that.
Yeah.
It's high. I'd be up there.
Anyone clipping their toenails in public, that is not okay. Lots of feet things
Yeah.
in me. I don't want your feet around me.
I mean, eating loud food next to me feels like it's
Whoa.
an
The
appropriate
bar
time
is
to-
coming down.
I would also say nothing has ever made me more legitimately homicidal than upstairs neighbors in an apartment building throwing a party past like 1 a.m. Like even one is really pushing it.
One.
If you
Dude,
live
like
in an apartment,
10:30.
yeah, no. When I was younger, I would try to be like, okay, I get it, right? Like if you live in an apartment, you just can't throw parties. I'm sorry, like that doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. Maybe midnight.
I used to live in an apartment underneath a Fijian rugby team. They were awesome. They had a lot of parties. They were cool. The problem was the parties would go to the next morning, and so about 7 a.m. the karaoke portion of the party would begin, and I would hear like 18 Fijian gentlemen singing Celine Dion. Not very well. They
Oh,
were not hitting the high notes.
It just
And it
sucks.
was a
Celine.
regular occurrence. Finally, I had to be like, I'd come upstairs and they'd be like, Kate Winslet. And I'm like, yes, please stop singing. I'm going to go back down.
yeah. I have a
We
lot
have
of
a rental house next door to us, and about 2 renters ago was a Latino family who they're very nice and everything, but they would have big parties on the weekends, especially around the holidays. But it was probably like every other weekend, and they would get the music going and go to like 2 or 3 in the morning. I went over there once and pounded on the door, and I could make through the wavy glass that they literally turned their dining room into like a dance hall. There was like 12 of them in there dancing, and it was to the point where neighbors were calling the police, and cops couldn't even get them to hear them knocking.
To
on
me,
the door.
if you're throwing a big
Sounds
party,
like a good time.
if you're throwing a
I
big,
know.
if you're throwing a big
I was
party,
like, FOMO.
if you're throwing a big party like that and you're older than like 22, like fuck off. Like I'm sorry, you don't need to do that until you're like 50. Come on,
Eric,
get your shit
you
together.
only live once, bro.
Yeah, so do I, and I don't want to hear your shit. And keep your feet away from me.
I was gonna say like 90% of what other drivers do makes me want to murder them, but that's why I don't drive that much. So that's how I've solved that problem for myself.
Mm.
Yeah, mine's more grumpy old man than murdering, but I cannot goddamn stand people that stop in the middle of the aisle at the grocery store to gaze open mouth at the shelves. Pick a side, get out of my way.
People who mistake movie theaters for their living room and also want to be on their phone the whole time in front of me, those death.
So I mentioned I went to Avatar 2 this weekend. 3-hour plus movie, 3-hour 15 movie. And so at 10 a.m. in the morning on Saturday, because obviously that's when I'm going to go see that movie. It was still pretty full. And it was also 3D IMAX, so expensive ticket, like not a cheap ticket. Fucking family brought like a 1-year-old child into the movie theater with them.
Ugh.
And I'm just like,
that cannot be good for their hearing.
Like no part of it's good. Like at what point did you think you were going to get through a 3-hour movie with this kid? Like,
It's just right.
Are you insane? They left after like legitimately 20 minutes. They just walked out with the kid. And I'm like, what? Like,
to be fair, they haven't had it that long.
After spending probably $40 to get in there.
Yeah.
You learned that lesson real quick, Rachel.
Right? Did you say it was IMAX, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they probably spent a good $40 to get in there.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
And
think
New York, New York City.
Do you think
$27 a ticket.
Do you think they charge them for the baby? Probably not, because the kids.
No, because they probably didn't have a seat.
John, you're the first IRL person I've talked to that's actually seen Avatar, which is insane because it's apparently made $10 bajillion.
Yeah, dude, like everyone's seen that movie.
No, I'm never.
It's really good.
I'm never gonna watch it. Did you like it?
Loved it. It was awesome. Here's the thing: if you're gonna go to the theater, like this is a movie to go to the theater for. Like it's fucking great in the theater. It's not as good as the first one. Like I love the first one.
Oh, that's a hard no for me then. Jesus Christ, it's not better than the first one. Are you fucking kidding me? He spent 20 goddamn years making this movie.
But like, I don't know what your expectations are.
It's not better than the first one. Are you insane? Really?
He made like 20. He spent like 20 years making the first one too.
Then no fucking way am I ever gonna see this movie if it's not better than the first one.
Okay. Well, I mean, other people might think that. I don't know. For me,
that's crazy.
Whatever. It's really good. I don't know. Did you see it, Rachel?
No, not yet. I mean, I am going to see it in the theater because my partner wants to see it. So we'll go. But I was not a big fan of the first one. So I'm not like, woo, rare.
Look, like,
my thing was
like the best movie ever made.
I enjoyed.
They're so fucking well dialed in. Like, James Cameron he's a gift. He is a gift to all of us.
He's a fucking
The action sequences, there is no better director at these action sequences. There's like a 45-minute battle scene in this movie. You're just sitting there the whole time. I was like, did you see that one? It's just.
I enjoyed.
You are actually selling me on this a little bit.
So
because
good.
James Cameron has made some of my all-time favorite films.
I enjoyed the spectacle of the first movie, but like I have never seen it since, and I cannot imagine watching it not in that like big 3D crazy environment because the actual movie is like, okay, like, it sucks.
That's why I waited like a month and a half to go see it because I'm like, I'm going in the 3D IMAX.
Also,
like,
literally every.
I agree. Same thing. I wouldn't go see it on like regular D.
Literally every quote from him that's been out there about this movie has made me hate him more and more every time. Like,
that's the problem.
Oh, like he's reached Tom Cruise levels for me of like, fuck off. I'm never seeing another one of your movies because you are such an insufferable asshole.
You're just doing yourself a disservice. Like, I don't know. Stop listening to him. I guess. Like that's like the easy solution here.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Like, I don't know. What are movies for? Like, what are they for? Just have a good time, for the love of God.
John, you know what I watched?
1-year-old child.
You know what I watched yesterday, John, that I enjoy quite a bit? The Last Broadcast. Now that's a movie.
Oh my God. You in The Last Broadcast? I'll tell you.
I'm a Cameron fan, but I'll tell you what impresses me more than anything. He went to the bottom of the freaking Marianas Trench. That's freaking impressive.
My son is pretty excited to see Titanic because they showed the trailer for like the 25th anniversary, which they're doing in 3D IMAX as well. And I was sort of like, can I take him to see this? Like,
Titanic?
There is a lot of
Titanic. I like.
Yeah.
I like Titanic.
If you like Titanic and you're not seeing Avatar 2, I don't know what the matter with you.
I
got nothing for you.
Not analogous, John. Come on, you're insane.
All right,
we got a cool email from Eddie, who's a patron backer. Thank you, Eddie, and he's on Slack. And he had been posting about he I don't know how he did this magic. Drew up a spreadsheet that compares historical run times of horror movies.
I know who this is. He's one of our patrons.
Sweet.
Nice.
So I asked him I asked him if he could like I asked him if he could like ballpark this for me and email it to me, and he did. So here's his findings. Historically, there's no major variance in the number and length of the longest runtime horror movies. There is a Stephen King effect in decades where he is hotter and runtimes are a bit longer because he needs an empowered editor. That's what he says. Number 3,
Coming for the king.
the 90s was the one decade where the longest movies were not as long as other decades. So if you grew up in that decade, you probably are not as used to longer material. And number 4...
Is this just a horror film thing, or is this all movies?
I think this is horror.
I've seen this chart. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Number 4, there is a trend that in the last 15 years or so, the longest runtimes are longer than in the past. But the bottom of those list of 15 or so films are still comparable to other decades, top-heavy, longer movies. But there are only a few of them. So so overall, it sounds like there's not that much of a difference. Maybe I'm just paying attention to it more, or maybe it's more that you've got more movies that are like long because they're sloppily edited and not because they have like a reason to be long. I don't know.
I wonder.
Oh, he gives his
I wonder
website
what
here.
percentage. Like, does he talk about like the percentage of horror movies that are longer? I can't remember. Or if because I know he had like a list of 10, the top 10 for each decade, but. I feel like a larger portion of them are longer, but that might be like you. I'm just sitting through more of them.
He does give his website here. It's soresportmovies.blogspot.com.
Okay.
That's it for emails. What do we got on Twitter, Casey?
All right, we've got a couple tweets out here on Twitter this week. Let's see here. Our first one. Pardon me, my cat just opened my office door. First one comes from at the Nun Club. Did anyone else flinch when that lady coughed in the checkout line in the first 3 minutes? Too real.
Yeah.
I did jump.
I still, if I'm clocking somebody hacking up, when I'm just like, really? Or if you have to cough
with someone that had the worst cough I've ever heard in my life, and I looked around and he was like mask down. I was like, God damn it!
If you have to, if you have to cough in public, that still for me is like a butt clench moment of like, don't do it, don't do it.
I mean, I ride the subway every day to work. Like, I don't know. In New York, we've kind of had to like move.
Yeah,
beyond.
well, I mean, no, there has absolutely been, I think, a desensitization to it for sure.
Well, or like a return to the sort of baseline level. Well, that being said, I do think people notice more. Like, if someone coughs on a subway car, everyone looks at them. It's
Right.
just like.
That's what I'm saying.
And don't you feel like you have to be like, no, it's allergies, or I just swallowed my own saliva, or something?
If I have to cough, I do the like here. I'm like shirt up, like arm. I'm like, guys, I'm doing everything I possibly can to not cough it like around you. Please just leave me alone. Yeah. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of triggering stuff in that first act for me. The cough, the groceries, the news, like seeing some of the people I haven't seen in a while. Like, it was, triggering.
Next up, we got at Marcus UC26. What are the top 3 things you guys would bring to it for a trip to a cabin in the woods?
Snacks.
Ooh.
The first two things are snacks. A cabin in the woods.
Deck of cards / board games / puzzles.
Like my laptop, probably.
Yeah.
All right. That's cheating.
Why?
Well, Eric is the same guy that we went to a cabin weekend with the folks from Night of the Living podcast, and he sat and played the stand-up arcade game with Jay Freilich all weekend.
That thing was the shit, dude. I played so much Ms. Pac-Man. That was the best. It was like the most relaxing weekend ever.
All right. But next up, we have a bunch from at KTKATP. We'll pick out 2 of them here. First off, Rachie, tell us about the 12-step program for hats and purses. Which step is having your friends find new connections or sources?
So she's calling me out, but she is like one of my number 1 hat pushers. I get calls from her like at 6 o'clock in the morning, like, there's a hat for sale. Like, she is 100% an enabler. So I guess my first one would be But just kidding, I would never. I love a cat.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was just gonna say Mondo does this to me with horror shirts. He'll just
Yeah.
text or
No.
and horror vinyl. He'll be like, I think he wants me to be like, ooh, I'm gonna get this, so that he can be like, yeah, me too. And I'm always like, dude, I can't do this. Like he wants me to enable him, and I won't do it.
All right, and another good question here from at KTKATP. What is your quarantine buddy ideal?
Myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like when you're married, don't you have to say your spouse, or it's like you get in a lot of trouble?
Hey, we're in a no judgment zone, Schnars.
Brandon Cronenberg, maybe? Maybe. I'll get back to you after I see Infinity Pool.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Depends on how much piss is involved.
I would say moderate. I mean, nothing like, excessive, just a moderate
Oh,
amount of piss.
That's not what the Infinity Pool's filled with, is it?
I don't know. I love a good, I had a good pod going, like if you have responsible pod mates, that's really good. You can desert island with your friends. Kat is someone that I have podded, had to be in a pod with. We rented cabins and things like that during the pandemic and got away and had fun. So I guess
Nice.
maybe that. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
All right, and that's it for tweets, Eric. What do we got on Instagram?
Let's see. Do you ever see the BGH crew doing another meetup in the foreseeable future? We've talked about it. I mean, it's actually insane to think. Wasn't 2019? Wasn't it fall 2019 the last one we did?
Oh, the 10-year, wasn't it? No, it was the Chicago one.
Chicago,
That was
which was
10-year.
12 or 13. I think 12
Yeah.
maybe. And I think that was 2019. Yeah, because that would have been 12 years. And we were immediately talking about doing another one, and then sick
World
happened.
blew up.
Yeah,
And,
stuff happened.
a lot's happened since then. Yeah, I mean, Joe was our main party planner, so that's a big thing. Is our legit the drive to want to do all the logistics. I don't know is there so much because it's an enormous undertaking to plan something like that.
I mean, if I'm at my mountain house, I'm only an hour from Eric's, from the capital region.
It's
So
not.
I guess we could host one there.
It's
is
not
what
out
I'm
of the
saying.
question, but we could always do a lo-fi. I mean, the first meetup we ever did literally was we all were in New York City and we're like, hey, meet us at this bar. And a couple of people came out. It was kind of cool. That was years ago.
Mhm.
That's how we met
Be fun.
Jenna, Charles' trainer.
Jenna. Yeah.
Well, I vote you do it. I vote bring back the meetup because I never got to go to one and I want to come.
San Francisco.
This is fully,
I
listen,
There we go.
come to
secretly
California. Let's do it. I'll
We
help
do
out.
a Zombie Girls BGH tag team.
secretly I
There you
kind
go.
of
Cabin in the woods.
secretly
What we should do is rent a couple of gigantic cabins up in Tahoe and then
alright.
have everybody go and crash there. It's so much fun. I've done it.
We're
Highly
gonna
recommend.
need the Patreon to start performing high level. But
patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. I do enjoy the schadenfreude of all the people that every time we did a meetup we're like, I'm gonna go next time, and then this is what happens, folks, when you don't do it.
we get old.
And we may just never do one again, so I can continue to enjoy all the people who were upset they never got to go.
I feel very attacked. Okay,
Aw.
let's move forward.
It should be a lesson to everyone out there, life is fragile, and you never know when you'll get another chance to meet your favorite podcasting friends.
It's true. What about Vegas? Vegas. would
In
be
fact, that last meetup was the last time that I really drank a bunch that day. We were at that bar for 11 hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the last for some of us.
We started with shots of Malort with the bartender too, so
Oh, I didn't do that. Yeah, I was just drinking vodka, but still.
weenie.
I have a fragile tummy. I can't just be drinking Malort and see what happens on a trip. It just doesn't.
I feel like the warning
just
is
not
in the
smart.
name. Like
Yeah.
if it was a Malort mushroom, you wouldn't eat it.
Right, exactly.
No, it's fair.
How well do you see the COVID era movies holding up years from now? Who can say? I don't know.
I feel like they'll be better in the future. Like it's too soon.
It
Well,
does feel
you
too
mean
soon.
like ones that are made in the future?
Something like this
will
in
be
20
better.
years. What is it? How does it hold up? You know, like. No, they're saying
Yeah.
movies that are being made now that are
Yeah,
dealing
they're
with
asking
pandemic
like
and
how
stuff.
this movie
Yeah.
or like Host. I don't know. Like, what are the other COVID that are like truly sort of like
See,
COVID-ish?
I think Host has something like Host could hold up more because yes, Host is a pandemic movie, but that medium it's on, that Zoom thing is such that's an ever-present part of life, and it's just going to be more so. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
think
mean, it's
Rachel,
a
though,
good
you're-
little slasher. What?
I was
Sorry,
going
go
to say your point, or like I think the point you were about like people will be processing the pandemic in more interesting ways. Like give it more time. Like let's I don't know.
So
Well,
what you're
that's it.
saying
I
was
don't
right.
think-
Okay,
Yeah,
wrap up
agreed.
the show.
I mean, this thing is like, I think our parents. I used to think this kind of about, like, so not, we all lived through 9/11, but 9/11, insanely disturbing thing to live through. It also was like, the event was like a day. There was something different and more grinding and insidious about the pandemic because it's been happening one day at a time and it didn't really have an ending ever. And like, I always say, like, if you're our age, you have grandparents who went through the Depression, and those are the grandparents who would like go to the restaurant and like steal food, and my grandmother used to steal food in her purse and shit, like free popcorn. She'd like be stuffing in her purse, never throw out silverware, that kind of thing. Like, we're all gonna have weird ticks into the rest of our lives. Like, we're gonna have weird shit.
Well, because the pandemic happened to all of us. Like, I think we all had very different, depending geographically, all kinds of different things, had very different 9/11 experiences,
Yeah,
you know?
that's
Oh yeah,
true, too.
definitely.
Whereas the pandemic, like, you always talk about how you miss monoculture. Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe not always.
I didn't say I missed having mono. That's different, but yeah. All right.
All right.
He's got to think about this one.
They're
before
just
he reads it.
they're not questions, so it's like I never know what to do with these. Better sequel name for Sick: Sicker, Still Sick 2, or wait, Still Sick or Too Sick, Too Furious.
Not down with the sickness.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
good.
I prefer something with like a colon in it.
That's true. That's true. I selected Sick 2, Sickness 2, and they said, "Would you watch a Fast and Furious horror sequel?"
Sure.
Yeah,
I've never
I mean,
seen a single one of those movies, so I don't know. I guess so.
I've
Wow.
watched them at some point or another. I'd watch another
I
one. Why
saw
not?
the scene in that one movie where one car jumps from one of those buildings in Dubai to the other one.
Yeah,
That's it. I've seen that scene. That's it.
The documentary Fast and Furious.
I didn't watch any of the Fast and Furious movies for plot. I watched them because, like, you see The Rock pull down a helicopter with a chain in his bare hands or something stupid like that.
Kinda
That's what I watch
action,
for.
that kind of action just doesn't do it for me. Like, if I want to see stupid action, I'm gonna go watch Con Air for the 400th time. Now that's a fucking action movie. Or The Rock.
Yeah, it is.
Basically anything with Nicolas Cage via circa 1995 to like 1998.
Speaking of stupid action, so John Hyams, his dad Peter Hyams, the movies he's like most famous for are actually the 90s action movies, including things like Time Cop.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, was it
So-
John or his dad that did Universal Soldier? You said.
That's
John.
the son.
Oh, okay.
He did
didn't do the first one.
Regeneration. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
He did
I
like some
gotcha.
of the sequels, I think. The like lower budget sequels.
How dare you?
I mean,
The masterpiece Regeneration. Put some respect in it.
he did. Peter did the Relic too. Horror element.
Oh, did he do the Relic?
Yeah.
Nice.
Wait.
Sudden Death. That's another JCVD.
Yeah, that's
Joint.
a good one too.
Yeah.
Love it. Last up, how many werewolf TV show comments do I get before I get banned? The answer is that was your last one.
Oh, dang.
So there you go. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror, John, where you can get a live stream of this show every week. You could be seeing Rachel's amazing electric pink hair that matches her sweater right now.
so nice.
Or you could be,
Send us to Tahoe.
or you
I
could
I was
be.
gonna say,
all of us
and
as
make our
the group.
dreams of a meetup come true, people.
Yeah.
And
Meet up
maybe
in
let
Tahoe.
we get to do a makeover, like make
my
BGH
God.
our Barbie. There's
There you
so
go.
many
This is
exciting
it.
things that are happening.
We just cracked this one.
Oh, you could get all back.
Get the Patreon people on the phone.
We're about to crash Patreon.
Yeah.
You could get
Patreon.
every back episode of the show. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, John, which reminds me we're almost up to episode 700, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a look at our feed here, John.
This is 693. That's what I have.
Yep, this week, so you can get either like a drive full of all the classics, or at the entry level, you can get the feed where we curate classics every week. This week it was Extraterrestrial. I think that was a found footage movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was episode 316. Originally aired January 25th, 2015. That's today.
What a different world we live
Originally aired
Simpler times.
7 years ago. That episode. You also get early releases of the shows, and you get access to Slack. Oh, last
Slack's
week,
a fun
John.
place.
Last week I put up a haunted house. Remember that? That was the Wayans brothers
That was the spoof.
spoof thing.
Oh, yes.
One of the genuinely worst things I've ever seen, but it was a fun show.
Did I see it like that?
I didn't listen to it. I just remember it being fun.
Okay.
I don't vet these at all. I just put them up in the feed, so you never know what you might get. And I've been getting a little more adventurous about going like 315's like a little farther back than
I did see that, and Andy Helmkamp joined us on that episode apparently.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, Haunted House. That episode 235, so it's way back. Originally aired January 17th, 2013. You remember what you were doing in 2013, John?
Well, I can tell you the week after that, I saw Mama in the theater. Remember Mama?
I'll tell you what was happening in
yeah,
2013.
hot callback.
I'll tell you what was happening in 2013. If I slipped on ice, I didn't almost give myself a hernia. So
As long as you can hold on to that almost. When the almost goes away, that's when things really get dark.
oh,
Exactly.
man. You know, that always. I don't know if you guys ever had that experience of just like you're a kid and you hear one of your relatives got a hernia and you're just like, what does that mean? And then somebody explains it and you're like, oh God, is that what your body does? Like, oh my God. Get away from me.
Snars, I just happened to open up Facebook and I saw a question, or the answer to your question on Infinity Pool earlier. Uprock says that you won't be able to see the NC-17 cut of Infinity Pool in theaters.
I vote we wait then.
I'm fine. Yeah, I want
I'm down with that.
I want all the urine.
Rachel, did you see the NC or
Yeah,
you did?
yeah.
Oh yeah, only the most uncut. Just
Yes. Oh, I mean, that's pretty much my motto. Only the
Yeah.
most uncut.
I like my Cronenberg. How I like my Jason Goes to Hell. Uncut.
It does go on to say the NC-17 version includes orgies, adult breastfeeding, and an Alexander
spoil it.
Skarsgård. Some excitement there.
Very nice. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
That one's gonna be super fun to unpack the politics of.
So
That
maybe,
one's gonna be really
maybe
good.
not in theaters.
We might need Rachel because I'm
I'm
not
in.
gonna be able to handle it.
Maybe not in theaters this week, but we'll figure it out. But we will be back next week. Man, it'll be February. I'm still not really into this year yet. Like, I'm not really down with it yet. So, you know. But yeah, February. Anyway, it's going to do it for Sick. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.